Saudi Arabia, the oil-rich billionaire nation, is facing economic problems that seem to be getting worse. It's getting worse and worse following the global crude oil prices, which have dropped significantly compared to the all-time high earlier this year. That's why Saudi Arabia's economic figures right now might not look so healthy. Whether it's foreign direct investment, that money coming in from abroad has really dried up. Why don't investors want to invest? This is in contrast to government spending in Saudi Arabia, which just keeps going up and up. As a result, the Saudi government's budget is now at a negative 2.8% of GDP. Goldman Sachs has even predicted that Saudi Arabia could see an even bigger government budget deficit. It could go as low as negative 67 billion US dollars. Because just this past January to January 2025, Saudi Arabia issued bonds to borrow as much as 12 billion US dollars. That's a lot more than in the past. And on top of that, the cost of insuring Saudi Arabia's debt against default has suddenly risen to its highest level since 2020. Just like that. So what's going on with the economy of this oil-rich country? Let me break it down for you and explain where all these numbers come from. If you want to support the information about the problems facing Saudi Arabia, the oil tycoon, you can scan this QR code. Or you can support the Sand Money Monster channel just by hitting subscribe. You don't have to click on every single video. Just subscribing is enough. And for those who already have, thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed yet, just click that button right now. It really is as simple as that. Thank you so much. The numbers coming out of Saudi Arabia right now aren't looking good at all. They reflect the country's worsening economic health, which just keeps getting worse and worse. The question is, what's causing this? There are several reasons, and I'll break them down for you. The first reason Saudi Arabia is facing this problem is that the country relies too heavily on income from oil sales. Saudi Arabia is a country that depends on oil sales for its income. Nearly half of the country's economy comes from oil, and oil exports account for about 80% of Saudi Arabia's GDP. Of the 80% of GDP that comes from exports, 90% of that is income from oil sales. Saudi Arabia is well known for its oil extraction and sales. They're oil tycoons because Saudi Arabia itself has oil reserves right beneath the ground. It's like having oil right under their homes, ready to be extracted and sold. Saudi Arabia can also produce oil at a very low cost, about $2 or $3 US per barrel. As for the profits, they depend on the global crude oil prices at any given time. But this year, Saudi Arabia has had a double dose of bad luck. The first issue is the cost of crude oil. As I mentioned, Saudi Arabia became wealthy because they have underground oil with low production costs, right? That's why they can make so much profit. But this year, the cost of oil production in Saudi Arabia has increased by as much as 11%. So while in 2024, the production cost per barrel was $3.15 USD, this year, the cost has gone up by 11% to $3.53 per barrel. It might seem like a small amount, but it's actually not. 11% is quite a lot. So the costs have gone up. And on top of that, there's also the policies of President Donald. Trump's trade protectionist measures and similar policies have lowered global oil demand along with the economy. The United States actually intended to drive down global oil prices because they wanted to target Russia. But in any case, Saudi Arabia sells oil too, so they got hit as well. On top of that, the rising popularity of EVs is like a fundamental shift in the world's demand for oil, which has caused global crude oil prices to drop significantly. As a result, today's global oil prices, specifically Brent crude oil, have dropped a lot this year. At the beginning of the year, prices peaked at $85 US per barrel, and as of the day I'm recording this video, which is May 12th, the global crude oil price has fallen to $61 US per barrel. With global oil prices dropping this much, it means Saudi Arabia's oil sales profits have gone down. We can also look at the revenue of Saudi Arabia's oil giant companies. Saudi Aramco's financial statements show red numbers across every line. If you look at the big picture, just from the revenue alone, it's dropped for 3 consecutive years. From Saudi Aramco having revenue as high as $370 billion per barrel in 2003, it gradually dropped to $236 billion. And by 2024, it's fallen to just $200 billion. But as I mentioned, since they're so wealthy, and even though global demand for oil has decreased, it's still extremely high. So even though their revenue has dropped for 3 consecutive years, nevertheless, in 2024, Saudi Aramco was still able to make a profit as high as 160 billion US dollars, which is a huge amount. It's just that it's 12% less than last year. This shows that Saudi Arabia relies very heavily on revenue from oil sales. And depending solely on oil sales as their main source of income, that's what makes the country vulnerable. This becomes especially clear when global oil prices drop, and Saudi Arabia's over-reliance on oil sales doesn't just create economic problems, it also leads to political issues. It even affects the daily lives of people in the country. And the second reason why Saudi Arabia's economy isn't doing so well today is because this over-dependence on oil trade has deeply rooted inequality into Saudi society, its economy, and its politics for a long time now. Because when a country relies solely on just one industry, like oil, it means there aren't enough good jobs for everyone in the country to have decent work. So whoever gets to work in the oil industry, well, they're set, they get rich. But for those outside the oil industry, they're not gonna be that rich. And when the country relies only on oil exports, since oil exports are the most lucrative industry in the country, it makes people feel like if I wanna get rich living here, I have to get into the oil industry. So exporting oil becomes the main focus. That's why all other exports just aren't competitive, because people in the country don't want to do anything else, right? If it were us, why would we do anything else? If exporting oil makes you rich, then just export oil. And the third factor affecting Saudi Arabia's economy is that they rely too much on selling oil, right? But oil prices are extremely volatile. Let's take a look at just how volatile oil prices are from this graph. See, in 2007, global oil prices doubled. And then the following year, in 2008, the hamburger crisis happened and oil prices dropped by half. Then in 2011, they shot back up again, doubling. But just a few years later, in 2016, they plunged again. And then global crude oil prices took a nosedive during the COVID period, but now they've really gone back up. Earlier this year, they even reached 85 US dollars per barrel. But now they've dropped again, about halfway back to where they were during COVID. 60-something US dollars per barrel. Actually, it's not just Saudi Arabia. You know, that's a country with oil underground and relies so heavily on oil trading. Countries that have oil beneath their own land and have depended mainly on selling oil for a long time, most of them have gotten used to relying on oil trading. It's just normal for them. But Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or Prince MBS of Saudi Arabia, isn't just sitting back and ignoring this problem. He's been making efforts to solve this problem and is also trying to diversify the risks by expanding into other businesses. But in the attempt to expand into other industries, it actually leads to issue number 4. Because we don't know if the plan they've set is too ambitious or if it's using too much of the budget, which goes against the oil price targets that Saudi Arabia is aiming for. If we look back to 2016, actually, Crown Prince MBS has known about this problem for a long time, that his country is at risk because it relies too heavily on oil exports. So in 2016, Crown Prince MBS announced Vision 2030. This plan is meant to develop other industries in Saudi Arabia, like the NEOM project and Line City, the smart city. And they've also made huge investments in football teams. In addition, there have also been investments focused on tourism. They have invested in mining, manufacturing, and even in education. They've built all kinds of infrastructure and provided low-interest loans to SMEs and small businesses in the country as well. Because Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman expects that by supporting low-interest loans, domestic small and medium-sized enterprises will be able to generate income that reaches 65% of the GDP by the year 2030. There is also a significant effort to make non-crude oil-related products account for 50% of all exports, instead of oil making up 90% of all exports. Furthermore, it is crucial to keep in mind That Saudi Arabia is currently working toward a specific goal to push global crude oil prices up to $100 per barrel in order to fully cover their extensive range of national budgetary expenses. And the reason Saudi Arabia's grand plan has led to today's economic problems is because of point number 5. A country that has always relied on oil now wants to move away from that dependence in order to build new industries. It requires a huge amount of capital, like an absolutely massive amount. And because it requires so much capital, right? That's why Saudi Arabia's government spending numbers just keep going up and up and up. But with the Vision 2030 plan and the push to drive global crude oil prices up to $100 per barrel, it's still far off. It still hasn't succeeded. That's why the Saudi Arabian government's budget is running a deficit of 2.8%. So the question is, why can't Saudi Arabia set crude oil prices the way it wants to? Because Saudi Arabia is like the big brother of the Middle East, the big brother of OPEC, the big brother of OPEC Plus even. Even after ordering OPEC member countries to cut oil production, they still haven't gotten the price they want. That's because even though OPEC is big, don't forget that the United States is also big and has the capability to help control oil prices too. And on the days when OPEC announces it will reduce its oil production to intentionally drive global oil prices higher, the United States responds by releasing oil from its strategic petroleum reserve into the market to keep the prices from rising too high, because it would affect the US economy. And since OPEC has been trying to push oil prices higher by telling member countries to cut back on oil production, but the prices haven't gone the way Saudi Arabia wants, right? So some member countries feel like, hey, that's not okay. You can't just tell us to cut oil production. Their income would go down, right? So no way. They're not going to cut anymore. Some countries, like Angola, actually left the group altogether. As for the other countries, like Iraq, Kazakhstan, and the United Arab Emirates, they did cut production, but they didn't really cut that much. In fact, some even increased their oil production because everyone needs to eat and live. They need to bring income into their countries. So it ended up that for a while, Saudi Arabia was the only country actually cutting production on its own. They cut production by 2 million barrels per day all by themselves, just to try to keep global crude oil prices high. At one point, Saudi Arabia's oil production dropped to its lowest level since 2011. Expenses went up, but income went down. So this year, Saudi Arabia's government budget ended up with a deficit of 2.8%. And the sixth major contributing factor that made Saudi Arabia's economy significantly more challenging is President Donald Trump's specific policies, which were one of the primary driving forces behind the sudden drop in global crude oil prices. Since Liberation Day, when President Donald Trump announced trade protectionist tariffs on a total of 180 countries around the world, this led to predictions that global oil demand would decrease in line with the contraction of the world economy. And the further drop in crude oil prices is also because Saudi Arabia couldn't bear to keep cutting oil production and having such low income. So Saudi Arabia ended up increasing its crude oil production again. Now, this has caused global crude oil prices to fall far short of the $100 target. And with global crude oil prices still at this level, Goldman Sachs has predicted that the Saudi Arabian government's budget could end up with a deficit of up to $67 billion this year, which is much higher than current projections. Because right now, the projected budget deficit for the Saudi Arabian government is only about $27 billion. But why did Goldman Sachs predict such a high number? It's because this year, Saudi Arabia has been borrowing heavily. Just in January 2025 alone, Saudi Arabia issued bonds to borrow as much as $12 billion. And this year, the cost of insuring Saudi Arabia's debt against default is the highest it's been since 2011. This means there's a certain level of vulnerability. There's a higher risk of default, which makes foreign investors hesitant to pour money into Saudi Arabia. As a result, the numbers for FDI, foreign direct investment, or direct investment from abroad into Saudi Arabia have dried up. But still, since they've been oil tycoons for such a long time, like, wow, ages really, even now, even though Saudi Arabia is facing what seems like worsening economic problems, they're still doing okay. Because they've had massive income for so long, they've managed and saved it well. Saudi Arabia still has huge reserves, both in the country's central bank and in international reserves. And it's still a large country with a very low debt to GDP ratio, only about 30% of GDP. So from here on out, what will happen with Saudi Arabia's economic problems? We'll have to watch the decisions made by Saudi Arabia's leader, Prince MBS, to see what he'll do next. Will he cut the budget for Vision 2030, especially when it comes to supporting other industries? Besides oil? If he really does make those cuts, would that put the country at risk of having to rely heavily on oil again, just like before? Or is EV cars become even more popular than they are now? Or even if there are cars that use alternative energy sources, ones that don't use oil at all, would that permanently reduce the global demand for oil infrastructure? And this is coming from someone who's an oil tycoon, you know. If he doesn't have any new growth engines, no new industries to generate revenue, it still shakes up their economy and makes things this bad, but they're able to survive because they've been wealthy for a long time. Now, let's talk about countries that don't have that much money, and they don't have any new growth engines at all. There aren't any new industries to generate income, just relying on the same old industries, really old ones. It could potentially be even more hazardous, and their economy might experience a significant downturn even more.